This is the Concord Municipal Affordable Housing Trust. It's Tuesday, January 6th, 2026 at 12 noon. We'll begin with a call to order by roll call. Mary Hartman,
Here.
Mike Lawson,
Here.
Rich Feely,
Here.
Linda Escobedo,
Present?
Matt Johnson,
Present.
Keith Bergman, present. And I know that Town Manager Carrie LaFleur will not be attending this meeting today. So welcome back to many of our regulars who are here with us. Next item is approval of minutes, and we do have two sets that we can approve. There were the November 20th regular meeting minutes that I had sent out last month. And just yesterday, we got a set of minutes from the December 15th roundtable. I appreciate that Christian prepared the basic set. I couldn't help but embellish and add a few more paragraphs for my update, but we do have two sets for approval. So I wonder if there's a motion to approve both sets.
I have to admit that I haven't read the roundtable minutes, but I have read the other ones. So
Same here.
so we could defer the approval of the roundtable minutes. Is that okay?
Sure. So could I have a motion to approve the November 20th meeting minutes?
So moved.
Yes. Seconded.
Okay, motion by Mary, second by Mal. Discussion. All right. Yes, Linda.
I believe I mentioned this last time, but maybe you didn't like my suggestion. On page 2 of the November minutes, under section
Yep.
B, about halfway down, we talk about CPA funds, and I'm just suggesting and ARPA funds being used. And I'm just suggesting a clarification that we say currently held by the trust. So let me pull up that sentence so I can read it to you.
Sure. Let me look at my.
Yeah, so halfway down in
Yep.
section B, it says the group discussed a proposal to purchase a property, referring to 91B, from CPA funds or non-CPA funds to purchase the property for $600,000, with $500,000 coming from ARPA funds and the remaining $100,000 from CPA funds or non-CPA funds. And I'm just suggesting for clarification that at the end of that sentence, you just add currently held by the trust.
Sure. That the purpose, and I did make that change in a prior set of minutes. I'm not sure why they're not showing here, but that I'd refer to it as trust CPA funds or trust non-CPA funds, so that we're not spending the CPC's money that they are holding. We're spending the money they've already given us.
Right.
But I'll make that change.
Okay, thank you.
Great. So with that friendly amendment, I'll accept that as a friendly amendment. We still have a motion and a second on that approval of the November 20th minutes. We'll take a roll call. Mary?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Linda?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
And Keith, aye. So those minutes are approved. 6-0. Thanks, Linda, for that correction.
Okay.
In the next item, several items on funding for the trust, just sort of as a backdrop before we start talking about how to spend the money. First, I wanted to note for the CPA funds, the new round of CPA funds as we did report at the Housing Roundtable. On December 2nd, the Community Preservation Committee did approve a recommendation of the full amount requested by the trust, $785,500 for fiscal 2027. I understand the CPC meets on January 13th at 7 p.m. to finalize its warrant. That I think they had its warrant article for town meeting. I couldn't, there's no video of that meeting and there's no minutes online, so I couldn't confirm in my brain that whether action had been taken on all of the outstanding issues that CPC needs to put into the article. Mary?
There is one outstanding issue that I think this trust might be interested in, and that's the establishment of a conservation fund bylaw. I believe that the NRC is going to bring an article to town meeting to establish a conservation fund bylaw similar to the Affordable Housing Trust bylaw that establishes a fund that will be funded by CPC. This year, they've got a request in for $500,000 to fund that. Right now, we're in conversation with the NRC to find out if that conservation fund bylaw that comes to town meeting will include select board approval for land purchases beyond just NRC approval. But it's so that will be a separate article, and if that's approved, it can be funded at the same town meeting by CPC. So for us, what it means is if that is approved and if it's funded, there's going to be another fund coming up at every CPC annual allocation, looking for money into a trust very similar to the housing trust.
Okay. Thanks for that update, Mary. I'm sure town council will advise whether since a general bylaw voted on by town meeting doesn't take effect until it's approved by the Attorney General, which usually takes about, she has 90 days, but it usually takes longer than that. So while the money could be put aside, I guess, for any purpose, and then it's just that the bylaw won't be in effect as of the date of the appropriation, but it will be in effect at some future date.
Good to know.
Linda?
And the other issue related to this would be where that money is coming from to fund it this year.
CPC.
I understand that, but whether it's in a reserve account or whether it's going to come from the total, which could essentially change the allocations. So that's the only reason I bring it up.
Yeah, good question, because there were a number of other funding sources, such as closing out old accounts, old open space accounts where the money could be moved over. And there was about, I think, $400,000 worth of such articles, which might be moved. But I think it certainly are worth keeping an eye on, because until the article's in the warrant and it's gone to the printer, that I just want to make sure that all the money that was approved for us stays approved or stays recommended, and so that'll be something to keep an eye on. All right, thank you for that. And so I'll plan on attending that meeting. Another item is the status of proposed state legislation to fund the trust. Our trust meetings usually when we meet at 5, then we can usually report on what happened at the 3:30 LOHA Coalition meeting. But since we're meeting at noon yet, maybe Rich has some insight. There is a 3:30 LOHA meeting today, but don't know if you want to share what the legislative prognosis.
I think we're where we were, that it's been reported out by the Senate. I believe the vote was 4-2 by members of the Senate members of the Joint Revenue Committee, so it's going to Ways and Means. The deadline for reporting by the House representatives is been extended, I believe, to February 20th. So, it's in process, and we do know that at least one of the transfer fee bills specifically pertaining to seasonal communities and the Cape has passed out of I believe it's in Ways and Means also, and that may be an alternative, some sort of negotiated package based on that bill. But at the moment, the coalition's working hard to get the basic statewide bill through. But so no
Very good.
news. Like everything else, it'll get busy from May through July.
We'll find out just hours in the final hours of the session, perhaps. So thanks, Rich, for your perseverance in keeping track of this. Any questions? All right, next item is the trust fund balance. I did put an update in the packet just so we'll have a number to see that our current uncommitted fund balance is $2,464,000. There's a calculation that I had put up, and I might as well put it up now. If I can share my screen. Sharing is not turned on. Well, that's too bad. Then I won't be sharing my screen because I have no one to ask who the host is. So never mind. In the text there's I mean the main thing I want us to keep in mind is if we have $2.4 million in an uncommitted fund balance, and in our next item we'll be talking about ultimately spending maybe close to $2 million to acquire and eventually develop the 91B Main Street. And we have the potential expense of what turns out to be $350,000 that the CHDC will be requesting for its buy down program. That if we're going to be having, about $2.3 million worth of expenses, then we're doing that against a $2.4 million in existing funds, but we will get $785,000 rather at some if town meeting approves. So just big picture things to keep in mind. Elisa?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I do have the ability to share my screen if you wanted me to pull up the meeting packet or any items there. So I am not the administrator of the meeting, but I can share anything from your meeting packet.
Unfortunately, thank you for that. Unfortunately, I did an update of the numbers that are in one of the slides, which I'm not going to show you because it's different than what's in the packet. So thanks. I'll just have to find out how I can get the ability for future meetings. I'll have to find out how I can have the ability to share my screen because it doesn't work well. That ability is not available. Okay. So any questions at all about the fund balance? We hadn't seen a printed report in a while. I thought it would be useful to have that. Okay, so next item is 91B, talking about housing production plan updates. 91B Main Street surplus state property, and this is meant to be continuation of the discussion begun at the roundtable when there was some information presented and slides that we could actually see at that meeting. And that we are looking at what action the trust wants to take in moving ahead to acquire 91B Main Street to develop 4 units. There is we have the revised cost figures from our HSO, and thanks for those, which indicates that the program cost for acquisition would be about $629,000. That is the purchase price of $600,000 plus $29,000 of identifiable expenses, including an environmental assessment report, legal fees, and other things. So, and so that's one item. Another item is for, I guess, for us to be aware that there, at some future point, there would be and that future point being the point at which an RFP is issued. If we go through all of the steps we need to go through, which is things that the trust does, such as authorize an environmental assessment, get back a favorable report, hopefully, have the select board vote under our bylaw to give their prior approval for us to acquire the property. Lots of steps involved in that between MassDOT and the town. But ultimately, when the trust obtains title of the property, a request for proposals could be issued with the assistance of our HSO and the town. And the results of that RFP process will inform how much of our available funds do we need to commit to develop. And so that's sort of the big picture. I put in a proposed motion that proposed that we commit the entire amount that's needed to acquire and subsidize development. I got some feedback of taking a step back and just doing the acquisition now, and we'll get to development later, and I'm fine with that. I had circulated some revised draft language that I emailed out yesterday, which we can go over. But those are so it's sort of a discussion that it would be helpful to have about whether the trust wants to proceed with acquiring 91B Main Street and taking the steps necessary to get select board approval and then to issuing an RFP and selecting a developer. So I'd invite any comments or discussion about that.
I'll start. Go ahead.
Mary?
Rich.
No, Mary first.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that grounding, Keith. I think let's just begin by remembering what the $500,000 of ARPA funds that were allocated for this piece of property were. Those are federal funds that were given during COVID to reimburse towns for loss of revenue. And when the town manager put together her budget for how she was going to allocate that money and asked the select board to review it, it was on the condition, the 500K was on the condition it was allocated for workforce housing. So I think that's something we need to keep in mind. I know that as we go forward and things change in town where we might have workforce housing at MCI or some of the other land that's becoming available, that might change. But for now, I think we should honor the intent of the original ARPA allocation. So that's my first comment. I'm struggling with this actual proposal here because I am an advocate, and I was very, very glad that the town manager allocated that 500K to this parcel for workforce housing. The cost per unit I find prohibitive. I think that we'll have, I expect that the select board will have some tough questions around the cost per unit. And I also have a question about the cash flow. It looks like the cost per unit comes down because we're able to sell some of these units, but the cash that we need to develop them, where does that come from, given I don't, do we even have that, will we have that much money in the trust to do that? So I see a cash flow problem. I see a problem with the cost per unit, and I'm hoping that we can work creatively to bring that down. Hopefully, maybe if we, not hopefully, but if we get some wastewater treatment capacity in town, that might help us bring down the cost. But I would really like to think creatively about how to get maybe denser housing there and bring the cost per unit down. That's going to be a tough question to answer at the select board. I'm sure of that.
Thanks, Mary. Rich.
Yeah, I have several thoughts. And the first is I view this as a gift. The federal government is giving us the land was bought by the state with federal funds, which is the reason we have to pay for it. But the federal government gave us $500,000. So they're effectively giving us the land except for the extra 110. Mary's points are always well taken, but number one, there's a hefty developer profit in there, or development fee. And if we go for workforce housing, which I think we should, uh, presumably the developer is setting a subsidy that the town provides the additional money and then recovers it upon sale. In other words, I don't think that we're requiring the town to come up with the full amount if we decide to go for workforce housing where the developer will be recovering 300,000 or whatever per unit. And I guess my final thought is it's expensive, but everything's expensive. We get 4 units. We will not have any, that I can see, any more affordable housing for 5 to 7 years after Assabetta's Bluff is done, other than this, given, everybody saying, oh, you can't rezone MCI for housing. Getting those things moving is going to take a while. I hope that we move, an elder housing project in time to use the money that comes in from Newbury Court. But in the meantime, we're not going to be doing much of anything. So I think if we go for workforce housing and collect, and deduct from the development cost that which workforce purchasers can be expected to pay, that this isn't a bad deal. I hear Mary on the sewage capacity, but that too is probably a long ways out. And so I'm of a mind, let's buy it. We can talk through the workforce versus non-workforce, but it's basically a gift of land for housing, and we ought to use it now. Thanks.
Thanks, Rich. Matt.
Yeah, I start with a question. Will the conveyance from the state have any strings attached to it? In other words, are we required to use it for affordable housing if the town acquires the property? The reason I ask is that
Mhm.
if we acquire the property just now, using those ARPA funds, but don't proceed with a project in the current scheme, hoping to get breakthroughs on a few different things, the sewer capacity, the opportunities, I think, for better funding for the trust and so forth, that's still an asset on the books of the town that could presumably be disposed of if we didn't come up with an alternate project unless it has all, strings attached. So
Right.
I'm not aware of what those would be, but it could affect the, decision.
Yeah, good question about what might be in the deed. I know with certainty that the fact that the Affordable Housing Trust is using our funds to acquire it, it shall be affordable housing or else we can't spend our money to acquire it.
We
I
don't
mean,
have in our bylaws any way to dispose of assets. I mean, clearly we would be then putting
well,
the
we could
money
sell,
towards future affordable
well, we
housing
could,
projects. It's basically, providing an asset to the trust.
Yes.
yeah, it is, and that gets to why I put a big number out in my original motion because I didn't want anyone to think that we could just buy it and sit on it. That if we're gonna get into the 91B main business, that we have to be all in, and if we don't want to go all in, we should walk away.
Why is that? I mean, again, why can't we sit on the land? Is there a legal reason?
No, I think it's awful public policy for us to acquire a piece of property that we are incapable of developing. Like, especially when we have the money. If not now, when?
I
But
mean, the
I
town
mean,
has
that's
any
more.
number of parcels that it, could develop, but hasn't yet.
Well, but none of those parcels would be deed restricted for affordable housing. This one will have to be as soon as it's acquired. When it's acquired, there will be a restriction. So for affordable housing, I'm going to do Lisa and then Liz.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out to that question of whether the town could purchase it and it wouldn't necessarily have to be, it could be sold later, not developed for affordable housing. The restriction that I can see is that it's using ARPA money that is dedicated for affordable housing, or workforce housing, or, some level of affordability. So in that sense, it restricts, the town to using that property for that purpose. So I don't know if the town could just, hold it and then turn around and sell it for a profit
Okay,
using,
I think
having using the ARPA money.
that seems to make it clear. I think that it still doesn't answer the question of whether we could still designate it for workforce housing and not develop it right away, given some of the other barriers that we face right now.
Yeah, I don't think there is a necessarily a time limit as long as we're, doing diligently kind of moving forward, but nothing suggests that it would have to be, kind of a rushed type of process.
I think there are all sorts of reasons why there might be a delay, but I'd hate for those reasons to be self-imposed. That if we're serious about using public funds to create housing, that our metric should be actually seeing the housing rather than acquiring the property. Um, but we don't control the outcome of the request for proposals process. That the market determines what will get built there. And in fact, even to the question of are we going to get to do workforce housing here, or will it be something else? Let's say if there have been some who said they'd like to see Habitat for Humanities uh, get this project where they developed the adjacent parcel a few years ago. Uh, Habitat doesn't do workforce housing. But Habitat does do affordable housing you can count on the SHI and pay less for, or at least that's our experience with it'd have a lower public subsidy. That was the experience of the CHDC with Assabet River Homes. Matt and then Liz. Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah, Liz
Linda.
was first.
Okay, I was going to say I'm going to call on Linda because she didn't use her electronic hand, she used her hand. And then Matt and then Liz. Okay.
Thank you. So as I understand it, we still don't have clarity on whether or not the state will restrict it to affordable housing. Isn't that correct?
Um,
I was going
and
to
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding is that this deal that involves us spending, yeah, it's a question of when does the restriction get placed on the land? If this, and if, and my answer would be, even if the state doesn't put that restriction on the land, we must.
Okay.
So Liz and then Matt.
So I was going to talk to that point. From the very beginning, the state wanted to know what the town wanted to do with the property. And if you recall, the CHDC did that concept, plan and delivered that to the state, and that was part of their agreement to proceed to discuss that. So going in, it was about housing, and that opened the door. Now, whether they would require that in the deed, I don't think that anyone has seen a draft deed, but it was the common understanding that the whole transaction was around housing, and the town indicated that to the state from the very beginning. We talked to, in terms of, like if a valiant attempt to do housing was not successful, what options does the trust have to get out of the deal, get out of the land? Like what do you actually do? Because you do have this asset that was supposed to be for housing, and if the RFP is unsuccessful, or like what do you do? And we talked to town council about that, and their comment was that in the development agreement, at the result of, like, you have the RFP and you have developers responding to that. And in that development agreement, there would be a reverter clause, right? Like if there's non-performance, that you can take the land back, and that you could then sell it for market, returning the funds from whence they came after demonstration that you had made all the attempts to create the housing as identified. Now, how exactly that would be articulated and codified in documents, we didn't get to that part, but that was town council's advice.
Thanks, Liz. Matt.
Yeah, I think I'm satisfied about the first question that I asked about, whether we could just utilize it, sell it later on. It sounds like it would be committed effectively, barring any really extraordinary circumstance, and even then we wouldn't benefit from that outcome. So that's fine. The thing I'm still unclear about is this requirement that we move ahead right away. Again, I see the idea of acquiring this property for workforce housing and then seeing if we can get some of these other issues resolved to make it more, valuable from the point of view of creating more units at lower costs. I think that's a worthy pursuit. And that if you take the opposite view of, okay, we decide, no, we shouldn't acquire it, I mean, it's just a pure loss. I mean, other than the $100,000 that we spend, this otherwise would be a possibility for us, and now it just simply won't be a possibility. And so to me, that seems like a shame. So that's why I was thinking it makes sense now to acquire the property, designate it for workforce housing. We have an ongoing need. I don't expect that need to go away. And that we should seek more effective financial approaches to develop the property, even if we don't have one right now.
Thanks, Matt. What that comment makes me think of is that to the extent that I think many of us on the call, hope maybe even all, would like to see more units built at whatever properties we do. Would have loved to have had more than 5 at Assabet. 5 was what the deal was with the neighbors and others. If a limiting factor of this property is sewer capacity, and I don't know, I think that if the town planner has weighed in on other issues that it may not be, that there are other site issues that will keep it from being developed for more than 4 units. that committing to try working with the Public Works Commission, the town, in expanding sewer capacity, that it would be worth the wait if you could build, twice as many units once the town tells us how to get that much additional sewer capacity at this site. Elisa?
Yeah, I just wanted to, yeah, just to clarify that there are, a significant number of like a wetland area on the site, so that does constrain the amount of units that can be placed there. There's kind of a limited footprint of where the units can be. So, I mean, there is potential to add. I think that maybe there is possible to add in a unit or two, but it really would have to be very carefully looked at and probably an additional sort of engineering level, site design to really nail that down. But it is something that is possible. It's just, it probably wouldn't be double the units. It might be, one or two additional units.
Thanks, Elisa. Mary?
I'd just like to say two things. Number one, that was very good news. I think 6 units would be wonderful. I feel, I want to get back to something that Rich said about MCI being 5 years down the road. I don't think so. I think that we're in the middle of developing a master plan. We hope to come to the town for zoning this fall, and I know that DCAM is very eager to get housing built at that parcel. So, I think the timeline is going to be faster, but that's a separate thing on the agenda. For this particular issue in front of us right now, I guess I'm a little bit concerned that buying the land is like the proverbial, camel's nose under the tent. And if we've got something that credible to say that we think we can increase the number of units and lower the cost per unit, I think that would go a long way towards making the people who are asking us to lower the cost per unit and have more dense housing and approve this purchase. So I was glad to hear. I was glad to hear that. I would like to maybe have more clarity around that or more confidence that that could actually happen before we bring this to the select board.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. One of the items that we do need to do in order to proceed is an environmental assessment, for which there's a $4,600 cost. I wonder if we would want to take on another expense of an additional engineering or environmental, whatever site design professionals could tell us how we can squeeze out more units on this site, assuming that we get a public sewer hookup. And maybe that would make it a stronger case to bring to this and do that work first and get the results of that first. And then if we can say, oh, well, we can do 6 units, then we go to the select board for approval to acquire. I wonder if that's the next step.
I can't speak for the entire select board, but I would be much more confident advocating for this if we knew that we could get more units. And so I think that's a good idea.
Rich, and then Lisa, and then Linda, and then Liz. Rich, can't hear you.
You're muted, Rich.
I hate to disagree with Mary, but I believe I'd like to see 6. That's fine if we can do it, but I would go ahead with 4 in workforce housing. I come back to the issue. I just looked at that as appraisal that was in there and talking about this small house that was past its useful life. Well, I never knew that houses had useful lives. But we're seeing is more and more of those small houses are going away. And if we want some, ownership units in this town that are accessible and not 5,000, 7,000 square feet, this is the kind of thing we've got to do. So I think we should go ahead and acquire it. We've got to get it acquired before the end of the year, we know, because of the ARPA restrictions. And, let's see if we can get 6 units on it. I have no problem with that. But folks, everything keeps getting stretched out here. And, meanwhile, you know, we're not creating any more affordable ownership units after Assabet Bluff. I mean, we may get some out of the 40Bs, but they're all rental and they're all 80%. Okay, that's my feeling.
Thanks.
I would
Thanks,
move the
Rich.
motion as Keith presented it.
Okay, we're going to continue discussion for the moment. Elisa, and then Linda, and then Liz.
Yes, I just wanted to comment on the additional units. I would say, I'm sorry if I made it sound like it would be a very easy process. But, in order to do that extra level of engineering and site designing, we would have to hire a consultant. And that would be something that, if the trust is interested in, the town doesn't have, dedicated funding for that. So that is going to be another expense. I guess we were anticipating that would be a step after the purchase of the property and not prior to the purchase of the property. I was merely saying that an additional unit or two may be potentially feasible, but I guess I wasn't thinking that would be a step that we would take prior to the purchase of the
Yeah.
property. And just wanted to just highlight that would extend the timeline. And, I know that the ARPA money does expire at the end of this year. So just kind of wanting to highlight that just with the timeline and securing an engineer to do that work, maybe a bit more time than anticipated.
Liz?
I was just going to say the 4 units really came from the number of bedrooms of 9 bedrooms in terms of that. So whether you could, say, okay, let's get some 1 bedroom, some much smaller units. They're already been reduced in terms of the size of the units. So some of it's access and throughput, having the two, coming in and out. But just still keeping to the 9 bedrooms, and so wouldn't really change the wastewater capacity, but really replacing some of the 2 bedrooms with 1 bedrooms. That might be one way to more expediently proceed without, something that's much more difficult and time consuming, as Elisa mentioned.
Thanks. Did we hear Linda?
Yeah, thank you. See if I can partly back to Alyssa's comment in terms of the expiration of the ARPA funds. I think requiring an additional engineering view on the number of units would greatly delay the timeline here, but also we will not yet have the site, the environmental analysis, and we don't know what's going to show up there.
Thanks, Linda. Well, let me ask a question. How do we feel about ordering up an environmental assessment as our motion today? So we do something to move it along, and then I think that the issue that Mary raises about how do we're getting some advice here. It's not just our decision. We have to get the select board to approve our acquiring the property. And so if you focus on what do you need? What information do you need to get the answer yes? Then I think we need to huddle some more. And there's a lot of information that some of us around here know, a lot don't. There's information that I don't know what I don't know, but there is a lot of pieces that fit into this. Uh, to just the example that Liz gave of smaller, more, smaller units, producing more housing units by redistributing the bedrooms. That I think it'd be well to have some venue where there's a work session. Maybe the staff can undertake that, just with the idea of giving us more information so that we could get an answer yes from the select board when they're asked to approve us acquiring this property, knowing that they've given us the funding for workforce housing as a first preference. The money, the ARPA funds can be used for up to 120% of AMI, and up to a figure includes all of the numbers that you reach on your way up to the top one. So I think there's some more information that needs to be done. I don't know how much progress we're going to make at meetings like this. And might need to have some working session where people that have the answers can figure it out for us. Linda?
Yeah, sorry for additional comment here. Are we concerned about the meeting the annual town meeting deadline as well?
In no way. There's no town meeting action that's
No.
needed on this.
Okay,
Ever.
thank you. Yeah.
Yep.
Keith, I probably going to lose this, but I'd like to move your original motion. I think we should proceed. I mean, in parallel, if we can have a staff discussion of whether we can get to 6 units, that's fine. But as I say, I feel strongly that we're losing workforce ownership housing units every time we turn around. We're not building any. This is a unique opportunity to get at least 4. If we can make it 6, great. But let's take the first step. Let's get the land and commit ourselves to building housing on it, and then we'll, sort out some of the additional details. And that, I think, is what your motion in the package actually would do. So I'd like to move
Yeah.
that motion.
There's a motion. I'll just clarify. The motion in the packet, in the meeting packet, is for a budget for the total budget to acquire and develop the property. And I'll just say I was satisfied to decrease that ask down to just the $629,000 we would need to acquire it.
Yeah, and that's the motion.
That's the one. Okay, all right, just to
I
get
would
clear
put
on that.
forward.
So this is the form of the motion that I emailed to everyone yesterday.
Yeah.
So
Would that be
Rich has,
sorry.
Oh.
Would that be pending a clean environment?
yes, it is. Yeah, the motion is, and I'm terribly sorry that I can't show it to you because the person that assigned me this link is not in the office to help me out here. The motion is that the trust vote to request the select board's prior approval pursuant to the trust bylaw and subject to completion of a clean environmental assessment report for the trust to acquire from MassDOT the 1.45 acre surplus state property at 91B Main Street for affordable housing purposes at the sale price of $600,000. And further to approve a project budget of $629,000 to acquire said property with $500,000 thereof from trust ARPA funds and $129,000 from trust non-ARPA funds, and further to authorize the expenditure of up to $4,600 therefrom for completion of the required environmental assessment report.
Keith,
Yeah.
is there any way that we could also amend this motion, not just for the clean environmental, but also for a tentative redesign for more units?
Mm,
Is that too messy?
yeah.
No, we could add in a clause,
Does the current language restrict us as to units?
no,
No, but
It
it
does
doesn't address it either. I would like it addressed.
no. Um,
Back to,
let's see,
Perhaps a clause right after the environmental statement and to explore, I don't know what the exact language would be.
yeah, and to ask the town and RHSO to
No, I'm withdrawing that. I'm withdrawing that. No, that's not strong enough. Sorry. I'll withdraw that idea.
okay,
No, I'd like to have that before we decide.
okay. So, all right, so on this version, this is a scenario under which we could proceed forward to the select board if we get a clean environmental assessment.
Correct.
So we had a motion. Who was the second? Do we have a second?
Michael,
Okay, Mike, thank you. All right. Motion and a second from Mike. Further discussion on that motion?
I'll just say that I think I will just repeat that I would like to have some assurance that we could get more units on this land before I'm willing to approve and bring this to the select board for the purchase of this property. So I'm going to vote no.
Okay. So that's a no for me too, because by the time we get to the select board, we need a majority vote, and it's not looking good when so thoughts. I guess I'll throw it to the paid staff that what can be done for us. And I don't want to say money is no object, it is an object, but we have a budget here. We've committed, $629,000, or we're committing it, we would, to acquire the property. And I don't know what I haven't seen how the $29,000 adds up. But for several $1,000s worth of work that could be commissioned from, does the town, I mean, it's not even high enough to have to go out to bid. That if you have an attorney, not an attorney, if you have some engineering firm on staff that does work at an hourly rate, I think I don't think we should have to solve the problem of how staff can get answers for the select board on how this property could produce more units. So I would ask the staff's help for how do we get to that answer? And what do you need from us?
Are you paying for the engineering work?
Yes?
Okay, thank you.
I mean, could we have
As I
a
said, we
motion to
have the
that
money. We
effect?
have
Yeah, yeah,
money.
yeah,
Yeah.
make it.
But I guess the question goes back to Alyssa's concern that would the engineering work be done in time to still complete the purchase within 2026?
Well, it's January.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we've been at this for 2.5 years when this first surfaced.
Mhm.
That is the availability of this property from the state. I I still feel very strongly that, yeah, I'd like 6 units too, but I'll build 4 if that's all we can build there.
Yeah.
And we're not going to get the land if we don't use the ARPA money.
There was a proposal for 5 units that was not deemed to be reasonable to go forward. I'll just say so. So pushing for 6, it's a time thing. It's a little bit more money to bring the engineers back and go and re-review and all that. And but it's some number of months for sure, for sure.
I just want to make sure that even if I just want I just make a disclaimer, even if we have 6, I'm not sure. Again, I'm not speaking for the select board, but even if we have 6, that's no guarantee. I think it just makes it a lot more likely.
I'm just
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
It's
just
1.45
frustrated.
acres and most of it is wet. So we'll be lucky if we can get 6.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll be
lucky if you
yeah.
get 5, maybe. Like 5 before was not doable. But I don't mean to.
Could we
Yeah, I
have
thought the fun,
instead of 4 units with 2 bedrooms and I guess one is a 3 bedroom? It's like you said before, Liz, couldn't we have units with 2 and 1 bedroom?
It's
So
really about the parking. It's
yeah,
about the access and about the other parts, the bedrooms, the number of bedrooms. If
yep,
you look at a unit size, how much space is on a bedroom versus
yep,
everything else is
got
much
it.
less.
Okay. Okay,
So,
thanks.
and is that possible? There was a lot of concern by the town and the town planning staff about expanding the scope.
Okay, I'd like to revisit that. Thank you.
yeah, I mean, we've been told that the 9 bedrooms came from, that's the most you can have without having to go in front of the Public Works Commission
Mhm.
for a vote. And um, I'd like that, I'd like that issue to be addressed and as part of this.
Like you can't go, well, I don't know, can't is probably too strong a word, but the Public Works Commission, in order to present for an exception, you need actual detailed engineering septic plans. So those usually are prepared as you go for your permit. So to prepare that level of plan before you purchase the property is more significant than what we're talking about of just a more conceptual design. So I think
That's not,
clarity on
that may,
what it is you're looking
okay,
for is important.
that may be how it works in Concord. It is not how it works in every place else in the world.
Mhm.
That in some other communities, when the town boards are following the lead of the select board to produce and town meeting to produce affordable housing, they find ways to make it happen. And an arbitrary decision that says, no, we can't tell you what the answer is, we won't tell you, is why there's no affordable housing getting built here.
Mhm.
Elisa and Rich.
No, I just wanted to get clarity on next steps for staff. So is would the trust like staff working with RHSO to, to, I guess, contract with an engineer to do a conceptual plan to see if 5 to 6 units are possible on this site? I just want to kind of clarity on what is our game plan moving forward.
I like that. I'd be good with that.
I'd make a motion, but we already have a motion on the floor.
Oh,
I sense that people would probably like me to withdraw my motion, but I really think we have a double standard here. The town will spend $100,000 per toilet to build an amenities building on land it already owns. And we're arguing about 100,000 per house difference here. I'm all in favor of, looking to see if we can get 6 units there. We were told before we couldn't. But I think we should proceed with the land and then maximize the number of units within the available constraints of sewage and parking and everything else. I know Mary, this probably won't get past the select board if Mary thinks it's not a good idea because you're the credible voice on the select board with affordable housing. But I think we've got to make a statement. We're effectively being given the land to build at least 6 units of ownership workforce housing, and we ought to proceed. And I won't say anything more. If we vote it down, I understand.
Rich, I have a tremendous amount of respect for you, and I understand your impatience. I do. I do understand. I feel that we've got a lot of opportunities for affordable housing right in front of us. And I want to make sure that we marshal our limited resources so that we're spending it wisely. And we have a chest of money when other opportunities become available. If I can go to the select board and say we know we can get so many units, this is the price per unit, I think this has a chance. If I At this cost per unit, it's close to, if you add it all up, it's close to $1 million per unit. It's like 960, I think, per unit before people bought the proceeds. That's just too much per unit. I'm 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 sorry.
Right, but we're getting the proceeds. I mean, we know that apartments now cost 600,000 to 700,000 to build. So, if we're going to do anything for ownership units, it's before you credit the purchase price that the ultimate owner actually pays. You're up there in terms of land value. Look at what 12,000 square feet with a house on it. That's a tear down, they say, and they're already valuing it at $700,000. I mean,
No, that wasn't a tear down, Rich. That was a vacant piece of land. You're talking about that appraisal that was sent
I
out?
was looking at the comparables that they used. Yes,
Okay, yeah. It's 700,000 for a quarter acre of land with nothing on it.
right.
It's already been demolished. So it's net of demolition costs. That's what a quarter acre of land in West Concord is being appraised for. Yes.
And here's a gift of land that is good for at least 4 housing units and maybe more ownership units. And, yes, we're going to have to subsidize the construction at 200,000 to 300,000 per unit. But
No,
again,
it's more than
back to the
that.
fact the land's a gift.
It's more than that. It's more than 200,000 or 300,000. It's closer to 500,000. And then if you add the gift, it comes up to closer to 1 million per unit that we're actually spending. It's not to, it's closer to 500,000. That's net of the proceeds of selling it. So we're up at close to 500,000 a unit. That's a lot. And it's more, and like I said, it's more than that if you consider the ARPA funds that we've allocated to this, which there's an opportunity cost associated with ARPA funds. So the cost per unit now is high. So that's why I'm trying to get more units, some creative ways to get more units out of this, and then we might have a chance of convincing the people that are asking for a lower cost, more dense housing, including myself.
Matt,
Is there an opportunity cost to not using, I mean, to the ARPA funds? I mean, is there an alternative use for the ARPA funds that we could actually deploy
Well,
within this year?
I, that is a great question. I know that, and I wish Carrie was here, but I know that in other instances, we have been able to kind of breached that barrier. As far as, the allocations we made, I don't know. I
And
don't I
then
don't know the answer to that question. That's a
and
great
then what's the
question.
cost per unit for Assabet Bluff? I mean, my sense is that 483,000 is what it costs these days in Massachusetts under good circumstances to be able to create a unit. I don't know. I mean, other than through, as of course we've explored these other projects that are, rental projects that could use grant funding, but absent that, how do you get a lower price per unit?
More units.
Okay, just by building a
Right. More
project
u- more
that
units, right.
where you
Right.
would need capital beyond the scope of capital that we're likely to get.
Would,
No. No, I'm saying
well,
more denser, more units on this particular piece of land. Am I answering your question?
Okay, so, but I guess, uh, there would have to be more bedrooms too, so we'd have to go past
No.
the,
Well, I don't know. I don't know about the bedrooms. If the bedrooms is a wastewater capacity issue, I don't know if we could get more units with the same number of bedrooms. And Liz was bringing up other issues. That's another thing. But I think if we took a closer look at could we get more units out of this and lower the cost per unit, I think it would have a better chance.
okay.
I wonder if we could assume that we're at a select board meeting right now. Think ahead, we're going to be at a select board meeting and the select board says, no, we're not going to approve it because we want more units. And then they turn to the staff and say, prove to us how we can get more units. That's where I'm at right now. That why can't we get an answer to that question? Why can't the trust get an answer to that question now so that why can't we get that answer first so that when we are in front of the select board defending ourselves, we have the ammunition. So, and that's, we're just volunteers. Linda,
So if the answer to that question is no, that we have that information ahead of time, we still get no further with the select board.
well, right, but we will almost, I feel like, no, I'm not going to quote Joe Biden and say, but at least we tried. Um, but that it's the calculus is, hey, if we know we're not going to get the votes at the select board to acquire this property, let's not acquire it. Let's move on to something else and just stop torturing ourselves.
The book Abundance is really uh, coming onto my mind a lot here. We just seem to be digging our own graves in so many ways. We're just a poster child for that whole
Yeah,
phenomenon.
yeah. And I'll call on Liz in a second, but the lessons that we learned or that we've been trying to learn from MHP's time with us last year was how to make our funds go further. And it really is to do different projects than what we've had in mind. That all of the all of the projects that we looked at were larger. They were for deeper affordability in most cases that they could get the low income tax credits or some sources of state funding for small dollars locally. And but we're not there yet. We haven't figured out how to do that yet.
You're
Yeah.
right. I know those tours and what we learned from Shelley opened my eyes as to how we could be leveraging our money to get more units. And I found that very exciting. And I also learned that the way we've been doing it is we've been spending a lot of money per unit, so we get very few units. And so one of the things that I'm thinking lately is how do we direct the limited amount of money that we have to leverage these bigger, denser units at lower affordability, which is exactly what we saw when we did the tours. And again, these I mean, I got very excited about it because these places are beautiful and the community has a wonderful community spirit. And I said that at the round table. I think that is, for me personally, that's the direction I would like to see the trust move. So when I see us spending our money on something like this, where it's a high cost per unit for a low number of units, it's not that direction. It's a different direction. And I'm trying to find a way where we can maybe take advantage of this ARPA fund to get some units at a lower cost per unit. And I'll stop.
Yeah, and I'll just say
Mary,
that
I'm speaking out of
just say-
turn, but
yeah, go ahead, Matt.
well, the trust has been pursuing what we believed was a directive from the select board to build workforce housing. It sounds like the select board will abandon that. Could you give us a new directive? It sounds like you're giving us a new directive.
I am personally, or the
Well,
select?
the select board needs to.
Yes.
Clearly, it sounds like, according to you, the select board's directive is out of date, and we're pursuing an outdated objective.
No, I wouldn't. No, no,
Is
I
that
don't
what you're
think. I
telling
don't.
us?
No, I don't think.
Well,
I was talking
what,
personally. I was talking personally that for me personally to be
right,
excited, but the select board objective for this particular parcel, right, was to get workforce housing. And at the same time, I'm also hearing from many people that they want a lower cost per unit. So I'm trying to make that happen in this particular unit, this particular opportunity. I'm not sure this opportunity aligns with what I was talking about earlier, which is what excites me. What excites me is the land we've got available if we were to, for example, um, consolidate Ripley to another location, and we've got Ripley available, or we've got Peabody available, or we have Kai's Road available, or we have MCI available. Those are the pieces of land that I think we can realize what I've been learning from Shelley and the tours that we've been taking. But that's my vision. This isn't the
but they
select.
wouldn't be workforce units. They
Right.
wouldn't be
They
workforce
wouldn't be, but
projects.
that's right. That's true.
Right. So I mean, effectively, you're saying we should not pursue workforce projects because this is the best workforce project that we're going to get, I think. I don't think there are any others.
And can I add ownership? So
That's
ownership
workforce.
versus
Yeah,
rental. I mean, you
workforce
couldn't do
units.
workforce
Yeah,
rental. Some people try to do that.
that's
But
right.
workforce ownership, and there's no subsidies available for ownership for Concord. You have to be in
Yep, I
gateway
understand.
cities.
Yep.
So if you want to do ownership housing, it's going to come at this cost. And even for those larger tax credit projects, the
Yep.
total development cost per unit is about $500,000. It's just that the local contribution is less. It's
Well,
not that
Yes.
the development cost is less.
Yes. Exactly.
So
Yes.
when you're looking to reduce the development cost,
Yes.
you're pushing, something that's too hard to push in some ways because the cost is what the cost is. It's really like, can you bring in other subsidies? And in a ownership model for these small number of units, there is no other subsidy.
No, I understand. I completely understand that. I'm not saying we should be doing that on this piece of property, but what I'm saying is that by spending our money on this, are we taking our treasury and depleting it so that we're not able to take advantage of these other opportunities? And you're right, Liz. It still requires a subsidy from the town, but it makes us it makes
So
other
this
states.
opportunity is available for you now. Those other opportunities that you're talking about are
Yep.
many years in the future, many years, even MCI, many years in the future. So this is an opportunity right here and now to create housing, should you decide to go forward. I think a few people have said that. There's this looks comparable to other per unit subsidies that the trust has funded. The trust funded $550,000 for the housing authority to purchase that unit at Forest Ridge. just last year. I think it was last year. Anyway. So that was for one unit, one per unit subsidy. And
Was that workforce?
no, it
No,
was
that was
it was housing
80%,
authority rental unit.
the
I'm
total
just
local subsidy was 550,000.
Yeah.
The trust contributed 400,000, but our metric is to look at what are all the local funds
Right,
that are being
exactly.
used to
I
subsidize.
guess I'm
Yep.
hoping that workforce housing doesn't have this high of a per unit cost and we can do better.
Well, just the numbers for this 4 units, that it's the workforce housing that needs the lowest subsidy.
Mm, yeah.
That because the 100% and
Right.
80% require more because the resale, the numbers that we've been provided by RHSO, looking at the bottom line, it has the resale or the sale value or the proceeds of sale, I
Right.
should say,
Yep.
are higher
Mhm.
for a unit at a higher AMI. So
Right.
120% is high, brings in more sales proceeds than 80% does. That's the main difference.
And if the driver for workforce housing is only about the cost, then a habitat model might be attractive because that's really going to impact your costs. It doesn't provide housing to the same cohort, So if the workforce housing was about who needs the housing, or is it really just to reduce the local subsidy, or maybe it was both. But I know that Habitat would be very interested in this property and would be a lower model, but doesn't address, as Matt mentioned, the select board goals of moderate income workforce housing. So
Mhm.
I just make those comments.
Thank you.
Elisa,
I'm sorry, I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but I'm just trying to figure out our next steps. And so that staff and RHSO can, work deliberately and, efficiently. So one question is whether we should proceed with the environmental assessment, um, funded by the trust. And second is whether we should pursue a very conceptual engineering site plan that considers 5 to 6 units to present. And that would also need to be, because it doesn't have any dedicated funding, would be something that the trust, we would request that the trust fund. And I don't have an estimate for that work yet, but we could work on that and provide it potentially at the next trust meeting. So those are just my 2 questions.
any comments from the floor?
I'd make a motion to
Rich?
do that,
Here we go again.
to fund that.
We've got a motion on the floor.
Oh, we have a motion. Yes, we
Yeah,
do.
we have a motion on the floor.
Let's move on to a vote for this.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we'll see what goes from there. All right, so on the motion on the floor is, as I recited it, it is for a project budget of $629,000. And it includes authorizing the expenditure for the environmental assessment report. And it does request the select board's a prior approval for us to acquire the property, subject to completion of that environmental assessment report. So are we ready for a vote on that motion? All right, a roll call vote. Mary,
No.
Mike,
No,
Rich,
Yes,
Linda,
Yes,
Matt,
Aye.
and I will vote no. So
and Bass.
does not pass. Any other motions we think we can do?
I move that we fund a environmental assessment and a engineering design to explore expanding the number of units available on that 1.45 acre parcel. And to have the work done soon.
I'd like to say, I think it's got to be done within 60 days because the debate won't be over when that report comes back. And we may well have to respond to further. Anyhow, if we're going to buy this at all, I think we've got a max of 60 days. I don't disagree with having the study, Mary. I just think it's got to have a time frame.
Okay. Well, what's a reasonable time frame? Elisa, it's
60 days sounds very difficult, but Lisa,
difficult.
what do you think?
Yes, I mean, we're really starting from scratch again. I really was not part of this project in when they were doing the engineering design initially. So it's going to be some homework and everything to figure that out. So I don't really have a time frame. I mean, they'll have to do like a site walk and evaluate all the conditions. So I think that 3 months is more reasonable as even a tight time frame. So that's my suggestion for a tight time frame, 3 months.
I could go with 90 days.
90 days.
I mean, but the select board, I mean, we're going to have to push hard with if we want to go ahead. There's a lot of things that then have to happen between April and November.
Yeah. Yeah. But we'll have better information. And like Joe Biden said, at least we tried. So let's try.
And I'm confident that if, just based on one conversation I had with Carrie, that if that the town can redistribute its ARPA funds to other approved projects. So the town will not let the funds be lost, although they might be lost to us.
Ah, okay.
I was actually lobbying to try to get more funds for ARPA funds for the purchase of this property, which presumably would come from other funds. So anyway.
Good to know.
So we have a motion with the figure of the number of 90 days for the engineering work. Shall we take a vote on that motion?
To do.
All right, Mary, roll call. Mary?
Yes.
Excuse me. Did you get a second for that motion?
I'll second it.
Oh, I thought Rich, second by Rich. Okay. This is one of those meetings I'm going to have to watch the tape to see who did what. All right, so motion by Mary, second by Rich, and roll call vote. Mary,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Rich,
Yes.
Linda,
Hi.
Matt,
Aye.
and Keith, aye. So that passes unanimously. Well, we made progress. It was much more therapeutic than we were planning on, but I think we have more therapy ahead to figure out how to get this done. But but it's because we all care about what we do so much. So thank you for everyone for this conversation today. It is 1:24. There's no other votes that are necessary from the trust. I did want to update you on just a couple of things. First, as I mentioned earlier, the Housing Development Corporation did vote at their meeting this morning to submit an application to us for funding, for short-term funding in the amount of $350,000 for their buy-down program. I do not want to get into a long conversation about that. We don't have the application in front of us. They're still working on it. But that will be an item that we will need to, I think, engage in conversation between the trust and CHDC to see how to talk through all of that, how it would work. We won't just be putting it on the agenda, an up or down vote. I think this is going to require some discussions back and forth. With the same goal, I have to say, of figuring out, can we do it at all, or do we just walk away? Because if we can't figure out how to help CHDC do a buy down, I think they need to consider getting out of the buy down business. And so and I'd like to find a happy medium in there somewhere. So no action on that. I did, let's see, no news from the Housing Authority. I appreciate that Mary mentioned the master plan RFP for MCI Concord. It'll be good to see that out. CHDC discussed it at their meeting this morning. They were provided with a draft copy of the RFP. It was not something that the land use working group got to see. I was told. I'm not sure why, but anyway, so that will be good to see that go forward. Matt Johnson had brought to our attention the updated information from the planning board on there are 7 zoning articles that are going to town meeting, a few of which are of interest to us. I don't know if you had anything that you wanted to call out for us now, Matt. I know our hope is to take a position on the articles prior to town meeting, prior to or after the planning board hearing.
Yeah, not anything very big beyond what was stated there in the report. So just that I think our hope had been to be able to influence the MBTA work to expand the district into the MCI property. But I think, as explained there, the board was very reluctant to do so for a number of reasons. So it seems not practical for us to try to drive that conclusion. So that really leaves us with the business residence use article, and there are a number of things that we could discuss and take a position on there later on.
Thanks, Matt.
And then just while I have the floor, I also
Sure.
have been investigating the issue of CPA funding allocations. And just to say, just one factoid, statewide, affordable housing for CPA has been 32% of all funds spent. So the deviation for Concord is about 9% below that.
Hmm.
So
Gives us
one
something
fact.
to shoot for. All right,
Yeah.
very good.
That's right.
Take that as a challenge. All right. Thank you. The annual town report is due their reports are due January 19th. I wrote one up and would welcome your comments, not at this meeting, but if you had any edits to get me, I appreciate it. I applaud the town for having the goal of trying to win the annual town report contest at MMA, and I was one of the judges this year for that contest, and I'm and I can't say how Concord did, but just that I said I learned a lot reading the 60 town reports that I was required to read to rate them. And
My
I have
condolences.
and I have ideas. Yeah, no, I have ideas on what a winning report would look like, especially a report of the year 2025 in the town of Concord, Massachusetts. Is there a way to brand that to make it a winning report? Okay, we don't have enough time today to talk more about how we organize ourselves for implementing our goals and strategies. We need to spend some more quality time on that, and so I would suggest that we do that at our next meeting. And I will go to public comment and suggest that, do we know yet when we want to have our next meeting? Do we want to do it do we want another one this month, or are we looking at February now? Any thoughts? Why don't I just circulate some dates, a doodle poll, and we'll figure out when our next meeting is.
Good, good.
All right, public comment. Ed,
Just to respond about the housing authority project for sprinklers. It's required that we get an additional engineering to the fire alarm system project that the state is already working on, and the paperwork has gone in for that. So we're proceeding, and it's a very important project which we're going to get. I think a 2.5 or three times funding from the state. So just to let you know on that.
great, thanks, Ed.
Yeah.
All right, I think we are ready for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Motion by Mike, second by Rich. Roll call vote, Mary,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Rich,
yes.
Linda,
Thank you.
thank you, Matt,
Aye.
and Keith, aye. So we are adjourned at 1:31 p.m. Thanks, everyone.